sang as everyone watched in amazement. "That's her!" the prince kept on screaming. "She is the one! I've found her!" The other maidens were shocked. They couldn't believe what was going on. Uli, the palm kernel girl. Once upon a time, in the eastern parts of Nigeria, there was a village called Ora. This village was surrounded by the sparkling waters of the Oyi River, which made the whole place look like it was taken from a fairy tale. Ora was not just any village, it was incredibly beautiful and lively. Everywhere you looked, you could see the green fields and colorful flowers. The air was always fresh and the sky seemed bluer than anywhere else. The people who lived in Ora were always happy and kind. They lived together in peace and helped each other like one big family. The soil in Ora was very fertile, so the villagers could grow all kinds of fruits, vegetables, and crops. Because of this, there was always plenty of food to eat and nobody ever went hungry. The people of Ora were also known for their friendly smiles and warm greetings. If you visited Ora, you would instantly feel welcomed and loved. Ora was famous all over the East for something special: its beautiful maidens. These young women were not only stunning to look at, but also had a special talent that made them even more unique. They were amazing dancers. The way they moved was like magic. Their dances were so graceful and mesmerizing that anyone who watched them couldn't help but be enchanted. The elders in the village often joked that if you wanted to forget all your worries, you should watch an Ora maiden dance. They were right. The maidens could twist and turn their waist in a way that seemed almost impossible. Their movements were so smooth and flexible that it was hard to believe they were real. People from nearby villages would come to Ora just to see them dance. No matter how many times you watched them, you would never get tired of their performances. Their dances were always fresh and exciting, filling everyone who watched with joy and wonder. In this beautiful village called Ora, there lived a woman named Ojugo. Ojugo was married to a kind-hearted gentleman named Nnamdi, who also came from the same village. They were very happy together and shared a deep love. They were blessed with a beautiful daughter named Uli, who was the light of their lives. Ojugo and Nnamdi had always hoped to have more children, but despite trying for many years, they were not able to have any more. Nnamdi loved Ojugo very much and always showed her great kindness and support. Whenever Ojugo felt sad about not having more children, Nnamdi would comfort her with loving words. He would tell her that their daughter Uli was worth more than 10 sons. These words always made Ojugo smile and feel better. Nnamdi believed in his heart that Uli would grow up to be someone very special and bring great joy to their lives. Even though some of Nnamdi's friends advised him to marry another woman so he could have more children, Nnamdi always refused. He would tell them the same thing he told his wife Ojugo, that Uli was greater than 10 sons to him. His friends would laugh at him and think he was foolish, but Nnamdi didn't care. He knew what was most important to him, and that was his family. He loved Ojugo and Uli with all his heart and didn't want anything to change that. Nnamdi and Ojugo devoted all their love and care to their daughter Uli. They made sure she was always happy and well taken care of. They worked hard to provide her with the best life possible. Uli was growing up to be a very beautiful young woman. She had a kind heart and a joyful spirit, just like her parents. Everyone in the village admired Uli and could see how special she was. Ojugo and Nnamdi's love for their daughter was clear in everything they did. They taught her the values of kindness, respect, and hard work. They made sure she had good education and learned the ways of their village. Uli loved her parents very much and was grateful for all they did for her. She was proud to be their daughter and wanted to make them happy. When Ojugo was still a young maiden, she was the best dancer in all of Ora. Her dancing was something truly special. As soon as the music started, her body would move gracefully to the rhythm and her smile would light up her face. Everyone in the village admired her. They would gather around just to watch her dance, amazed at how perfectly she moved. Even after she became a mother, Ojugo never lost her love for dancing. It was a big part of who she was. Ojugo, Nnamdi and their daughter Uli lived very close to a large udara tree. This tree was special to their family. Every evening, after finishing their day's work, they would gather under this tree to dance. It was their favorite time of the day. Ojugo would start dancing first, showing her daughter the magical steps she knew so well. Her voice would fill the air as she hummed to the rhythm, and Uli would watch her mother closely, following every movement with her eyes. Uli tried to copy her mother's step, moving her feet and arm, just like Ojugo did. Nnamdi loved watching his wife and daughter dance. He would sit nearby with a big smile on his face, feeling proud and happy. He could see that Uli was going to be a great dancer just like her mother. She had the same grace and joy in her movements. Ojugo was a patient teacher, always encouraging Uli and helping her improve. Their dancing time was full of laughter and music, a special moment they all cherished. Every evening the family danced together under the udara tree. The sun would set, painting the sky with beautiful colors, and the air would cool down, making it perfect for dancing. Ojugo and Uli would twirl and step to the beat, creating a beautiful sight. The more they danced, the better Uli became. She learned to move her body with the same grace and elegance as her mother. Ojugo's magical steps were passed down to her daughter, and Uli made them her own. Nnamdi often clapped and cheered, encouraging both his wife and daughter. These evenings under the udara tree were special to them, a time to bond and enjoy each other's company. The king of this great kingdom, King Dike, had one son named Ebube. As Prince Ebube grew into a young boy, everyone could see how kind and loving he was, just like his parents. He was always happy and eager to be involved in all the affairs of the kingdom, whether it was helping with decisions or learning about their traditions. Prince Ebube wanted to be part of everything. Ebube had a deep love for their culture. He was fascinated by the beautiful costumes and traditions of their village. He would often walk around admiring the colorful clothes, the delicious food, and the joyful songs of his people. The king and queen were incredibly proud of their son. They saw his passion and kindness and knew he would be a great leader one day. The entire village could not stop singing his praises. People would talk about how wise he was, saying it was unusual for someone his age to be so thoughtful and smart. One of Prince Ebube's favorite times was the Eke market days. On these days, the market square was full of life and energy. The maidens of the village would gather to dance, their movements full of joy and grace. Prince Ebube loved watching them dance. It made him so happy that he would often say to himself, "I must marry a woman who knows how to dance so well." The music and the dancing lifted his spirits and filled him with joy. When Prince Ebube turned 16, something very sad happened. His mother, Queen Nnenna, became very ill. Despite all the efforts to help her, she passed away. The entire kingdom mourned the loss of this kind-hearted woman. She was loved by everyone, and her death left a big emptiness in the hearts of the people. King Dike was heartbroken and refused to be consoled. He had loved his wife deeply, and her loss was almost too much for him to bear. Prince Ebube was devastated. He had grown up under his mother's loving care and guidance. They had often talked about his future, dreaming together of what he would become. But now she was gone, leaving him feeling lost and alone in a cold world. The pain of losing his mother was so great that Prince Ebube became very sad and withdrawn. He was no longer the happy and cheerful prince that everyone knew. He would spend hours sitting in his room, refusing to talk to anyone, and in the evenings, he would ride through the forest, admiring the mountains and the beautiful river. It made him feel a bit better, but once he returned to the palace, he would immediately return to his grief, as everywhere was just filled with memories of his mother. The once lively and joyous boy now felt a deep sadness that he couldn't shake off. The whole kingdom was worried about him. They missed seeing his bright smile and hearing his kind words as he rode through the village. Everyone hoped that with time the prince would find a way to heal from his loss and become the joyful person he once was. Every evening, Prince Ebube would ride his horse towards the forest, enjoying the cool breeze and the beauty of nature around him. His path always took him past the Udara tree, which stood close to where Nnamdi and his family lived. One day, as he was returning from the forest, he heard a melodious voice that made him stop in his tracks. The sound was so beautiful that it filled the entire environment with its sweet tunes. Curious, the prince twisted and turned his head, trying to find where the melodies were coming from. He sensed that the source of the song was still ahead, so he urged his horse forward, eager to discover the singer. As he approached, he saw a glorious sight that took his breath away. There, under the Udara tree, was Uli. She was singing and dancing with the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. Her face shone with happiness as she moved gracefully to the rhythm of her song. Her parents, Nnamdi and Ojugo, watched her with excitement, clapping and cheering her on. It was clear that Uli was even more gifted than her mother, who had been the best dancer in Ora. Prince Ebube found himself smiling as he watched Uli. It was the first time he had felt this way since his mother's death. The sadness that weighed heavily on his heart seemed to melt away as he listened to her sweet voice and watched her graceful movements. He marveled at how one person could be so talented at both singing and dancing. Her voice was like magic, capable of calming even the scariest storm. Her dance was a sight to behold, full of energy and joy. From that day on, Prince Ebube stopped going to the forest. Instead, he would ride towards the Udara tree every evening. From a distance, he would observe Uli and her family as they enjoyed their evenings. He watched as Uli sang and danced, bringing joy to everyone around her. Her parents were so proud of her, and their love for each other was clear to see. These moments filled the prince with a sense of peace and happiness that he had not felt in a long time. The more Prince Ebube watched Uli, the more he began to heal. The heavy sadness in his heart started to lift, and he found himself smiling more often. He began to feel like his old self again, full of life and joy. The sight of Uli dancing and singing under the tree became the highlight of his day. It reminded him of the beauty and goodness in the world, even after experiencing such a great loss. One day, something very sad happened that changed everything. Nnamdi and Ojugo, Uli's loving parents, were traveling to a faraway kingdom to buy goods for the market. They needed these goods to sell and make a living. On their way back home, they had to travel by sea. Suddenly, a terrible storm began. The wind howled and the waves grew very tall and fierce. The sailor tried his best to control the boat and get everyone safely to the shore, but the storm was too strong. The boat couldn't withstand the powerful waves and it capsized, throwing everyone into the water. Sadly, everyone on the boat, including Ojugo and Nnamdi, drowned in the river. Meanwhile, Uli was at home sitting in front of the house and waiting for her parents to return. She was excited to see them and hear about their journey. As the sun began to set and it grew late, she started to worry. Her parents still hadn't come back. She decided to take her lamp and walk round the village to ask if anyone had seen them at the market. She spoke to many people who sold goods at the market, but no one had seen her parents. Heartbroken and scared, Uli returned home and sat in front of the house, crying through the night. She felt so alone and worried about what might have happened to her beloved parents. The next morning, she decided to go to her grandmother's house, hoping to find some comfort. When she arrived, she found her grandmother crying and rolling on the floor in grief. Uli was confused and frightened, wondering what was happening. But she could see the way the villagers stared at her with so much pity in their eyes. "Hey, yeah," they kept on saying. It was then that she heard the devastating news. Her parents were dead. They had drowned in the river during the storm. Uli's world shattered at that moment. She wailed bitterly, her cries echoing through the village. The villagers, who loved her parents dearly, came together to console Uli and her grandmother. Everyone was heartbroken by the loss of Nnamdi and Ojugo. It was a very sad time for Uli and her grandmother, who now had to face the future without them. From that day on, it was just Uli and her grandmother. They had to support each other and find a way to move forward despite their immense grief. Uli missed her parents so much. She missed her mother's dances and her father's warm smiles. Life wasn't the same anymore without her parents. During this sad time, Prince Ebube continued his visits to the Udara tree, hoping to see Uli and her family. Each evening, he would ride his horse to the spot where he used to watch Uli dance and sing. But no matter how many times he visited, he never saw them again. He began to worry, wondering where they had gone or what had happened to them. After several weeks of going to the Udara tree and finding it empty, Prince Ebube decided to stop visiting. However, he never stopped thinking about Uli. He missed her beautiful smile and graceful dances. The memory of her joy and talent stayed with him, and he often wished he could see her again, even if it was just for a moment. Things became very difficult after the deaths of Ojugo and Nnamdi. Uli's grandmother was old and weak, and she couldn't do much to help. Immediately after her parents died, Uli's father's uncles came and took over their house, the one near the Udara tree, and all her father's farmland. They left Uli with nothing. There was no one who could fight them back or stop them from taking everything. Uli was left with only a small piece of land close to her grandmother's house. She planted cocoyam there, and it became their main source of food. Whenever they had nothing to eat, Uli would wander around the forest, gathering palm kernels. She would bring them home and share them with her grandmother. Despite all the hardships, Uli still missed her parents so much. She often wished they were still alive to help her and guide her. Even though her life had become very hard, she still loved dancing. She would go to the village square to dance with the other maidens whenever she could. But her clothes were torn and ragged, and her hair was unkempt because there was no one to take care of her. Because of this, the other maidens didn't want to include her in their group. They would laugh at her and mock her, saying she smelled bad and couldn't afford the beautiful dance costumes they wore. These moments made Uli think of her dead parents. Her mother had always looked forward to the day Uli would join the maidens at the Eke market square to dance. But now that the time had come, she couldn't join them. The maidens were too mean and hostile towards her. They nicknamed her the palm kernel girl because they often saw her wandering in the bush, searching for palm nuts to sell or eat with her grandmother. Life was very hard for Uli. She would always come home crying, but her grandmother never failed to console her. One thing she always said to her was this: "My child, everything you are going through now is setting you up for greatness." When people told your father to take another wife, he said he would not, as you are greater than 10 sons put together. Let this word comfort you, because I know that you will be a great woman. This made Uli feel better, although she didn't know how it was going to happen. Still, every day was a struggle. She had to work hard to make sure she and her grandmother had enough to eat. She would spend hours tending to their small cocoyam farm and wandering through the forest looking for food. Despite all this, she still never gave up on dancing. Whenever she had a moment to herself, she would practice the dance step her mother had taught her, remembering the happy times they used to dance together under the udara tree. The villagers could see how hard life was for Uli, but many were too afraid to stand up to her father's uncles. A few kind-hearted people would sometimes give her a little food, but it was never enough to make a big difference. Uli had to be strong and brave every single day, even though she was just a young girl. She took on all kinds of jobs to ensure they survived. The villagers supported her by offering her little jobs here and there, but the money was never enough. Meanwhile, Prince Ebube had traveled to a foreign land to learn other people's culture and also about the modern technology. His father believed that this would help him heal properly and that it would also benefit the entire kingdom at large. As for Uli, she was stuck in the village and no one was coming to rescue her. She continued her daily struggles, trying to survive and take care of her aging grandmother. One afternoon, something extraordinary happened. Uli returned from the market feeling happy. A kind-hearted customer had bought her palm kernels for a good price, and with the money she was able to buy enough food. She ran home, eager to share the good news with her grandmother. But when she entered their small hut, she found her grandmother lying still. She tried to wake her, shaking her gently, but nothing worked. Her grandmother didn't move. Uli let out a very loud scream of pain and despair, and soon the entire village gathered around their hut. Her grandmother had passed away. Uli cried and cried. She was now left alone. Her grandmother had been her last remaining family member, the only one who had taken her in and cared for her when her parents died. Now, she had no one. The pain was overwhelming and her whole body shook with grief as tears streamed down her face. What was she going to do now? She mourned her grandmother for days, even after she had been buried. Eventually, she decided that she had to move on with her life, but everything was now different. Some people in the village began to call her a child of misfortune. Whenever she passed by, some villagers would whisper and call her names like witch or other unpleasant things. They accused her of bringing bad luck, saying she had caused the deaths of her parents and her grandmother. They ignored the fact that her grandmother had been sick even before her parents died. The situation grew worse for Uli. Some of the villagers who used to give her small jobs started to refuse, saying they didn't want her bad luck to affect them. It was a terrible experience for her. Her little cocoyam farm could not produce enough food to sustain her, and without any work she struggled even more. Uli felt the weight of the villagers' cruelty and the loneliness of her situation. Despite everything, she tried to stay strong. She continued to take care of her small farm and gather palm kernels whenever she could. She held on to the hope that things would get better, but every day was a challenge. The village that had once been her home now felt like a place filled with hard judgments and unkindness. Years passed, and finally the day came when Prince Ebube was set to return to his beloved village. The entire village was abuzz with joy and excitement. It had been years since the prince had left, and everyone eagerly looked forward to his return. On the day of his arrival, the villagers gathered in the village square to welcome him back. Their hearts were filled with happiness, and they couldn't wait to see the prince. The air was festive with songs and dances filling the square. Prince Ebube was deeply touched by their warm welcome. It felt so good to be home after so many years. He had missed his kingdom dearly, its beautiful culture, the delicious food, and he had never stopped thinking about the dancing maiden at the Udara tree. He looked forward to meeting her again this time. After all the festivities and celebrations, the villagers returned to their home, still buzzing with excitement. That night, the king and his son sat together in the royal chambers, catching up on everything they had missed. The king spoke about the village's growth and the changes that had taken place over the years. He shared stories about the people and the progress they had made. Prince Ebube, in turn, shared tales from the foreign lands he had visited, talking about the new cultures he had experienced and the modern technology he had learned about. They laughed, reminisced, and sipped wine together, enjoying their time. As they talked, the prince suddenly turned to his father, his face serious. "Father, I wish to get married as soon as possible." His father's eyes lightened up with joy. "Have you found the one?" he asked. "There's this girl I met years back before I traveled. I don't know her name or where she lives, but all I know is that she could sing and dance so well. At some point, I stopped seeing her, and I can't tell what really happened. I love her, and I don't know if we can find her in this village. That's if she's not married yet, but I pray she isn't." The king paused, thinking about his son's words. He knew this would be difficult because many years had passed and things had changed, but he also knew how much this meant to his son. "I think the only thing we can do is to gather all the maidens who could dance and sing. Who knows, you may find that maiden you have fallen in love with." The prince's eyes glistened with hope. He had never thought of this, and he felt it was a good idea. The king called for the town crier and asked him to make an announcement. The town crier's voice echoed through the village, inviting all the maidens who could dance to come to the palace in 4 market days. The news spread quickly, and the village was filled with anticipation once again. The entire village buzzed with excitement as the news spread about the upcoming contest. The young maidens jubilated, seeing this as a rare opportunity to marry the prince. They gathered under the big tree at the village square, chattering animatedly about their dreams of becoming the next queen of the great kingdom. Chisom, a very beautiful and proud maiden, paraded herself confidently. By the time the prince sees me, he will declare me the winner immediately, without even seeing me dance, she boasted. I am the most beautiful girl in this kingdom. But I dance better, another girl interjected. The prince wants a maiden who can dance. The discussion continued heatedly until Uli joined them under the tree. What is this palm kernel girl doing here? They mocked her. Please, I just want to join the contest. I can dance. I don't dream of becoming the winner, but I just want to showcase my talent, she said quietly. Chisom turned to her with disdain. This is a dance for the prince, and it's for good-looking maidens, not a poverty-stricken girl like you. It's an insult for someone like you to stand before the prince. Have you ever taken a look at yourself before? The other girls laughed, mocking her even more. Can you even afford a dance costume? Another maiden asked. They laughed again, their taunts ringing in the air. The bottom line is you can't dance with us. You are not fit for the palace, Chisom sneered. She turned to the other girls and added, I think she would make a good wife for Nweke, the old palm wine tapper. I wonder why he's not even married. I think fate is trying to say something. At least, you two have one thing in common. They both love wandering around the bush, the other girls echoed, bustling into laughter. Uli couldn't bear the humiliation any longer. She turned and ran away, tears streaming down her face. She felt a deep sense of shame and sorrow. How could they be so cruel? All she wanted was a chance to dance, to show her talent and honor the memory of her mother. But the laughter and mockery of the other maidens made her feel small and unworthy. She ran to the safety of her small hut, where she could cry freely, away from their harsh words and jeering faces. The maidens rehearsed tirelessly. Every evening, they gathered under the big tree, practicing as hard as they could. Each one of them wanted to win the heart of the prince. They danced with determination and grace, hoping to be the one chosen. Whenever Uli heard the sound of the drums, she would go close to the bush where she could hear the music more clearly. In that bush, she would dance gleefully, her whole body moving to the rhythm of the music and her heart filled with joy. In her mind, she could see her mother and father watching her and cheering her on. This was the best moment of her life. She wished she could afford to get a costume for the dance, but she knew that it was beyond her reach. As the day of the contest approached, the entire village bustled with preparations. The young maidens filled the markets, buying beautiful and expensive costumes. Mothers were seen assisting their daughters, boasting that their child would win the heart of the prince. No one remembered Uli. She watched from a distance as the village buzzed with excitement, feeling a pang of loneliness. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. Uli had no costume to wear, but she decided that she must go to the palace to watch the other maidens. She washed one of her racks and scrubbed her body as well as she could. She styled her long hair into a neat bun and headed for the palace. As she walked, she met the other maidens on the way. They laughed and mocked her, asking where she thinks she was going. But she said no word to anyone. They had stopped her from dancing, but now no one would stop her from entering the palace. The palace was a sight to behold, with all its tall, magnificent houses. This was her first time of being here, and she realized that the maidens had told her the truth. This was not a place for people like her. As she admired the beautifully adorned palace, she imagined what it would feel like to live here. If she were to be a queen of this kingdom, she would never get tired of admiring this beautiful piece of art. Every morning, in her royal regalia, she would take a walk around the palace, filling her nose with the beautiful scents from the flowers in the garden. She snapped back to her reality. This was never going to be possible. With every step, Uli felt a mixture of nerves and determination. She knew she had no chance of being chosen without a proper costume, but she wanted to be there, to see the contest, to be part of the excitement in some small way. She held her head high and walked with so much confidence as she could muster, ignoring the snares and taunts of the other maidens. She stood among the crowd, watching as the beautifully dressed maidens prepared for their performances. She felt a deep longing in her heart, wishing she could join them. But she was grateful to be there to witness the beauty and talent of her peers. The drumming began, and one by one the maidens danced before the prince. They moved gracefully, their costumes shimmering in the sunlight. The crowd cheered and the atmosphere was electric. Uli watched with wide eyes, taking in every moment, every step. As the last maiden finished her dance, the prince looked so sad. He hadn't seen the maiden he was looking for, and just thought that this was a fruitless exercise. There were murmurs through the crowd as the people wondered what was happening. The drums continued to go high, its beat filling the palace with great excitement, except that the prince had not found his bride. Suddenly, a tune played in the heart of Uli. It was one of the songs her mother had taught her. It rhymed with the beat of the drums, and without realizing what she was doing, she bursted into singing. Her voice rang through the air, filling the entire palace. That familiar voice. The prince stood on his feet immediately, searching for where the voice was coming out from. Then, she began to move her body to the rhythm of the music, with her voice ringing in the air. "What?" the villagers exclaimed. The voice reminded them so much of Ojugo. Did she come back to life or what? They immediately gave her space as the prince was stretching his neck to see her. Uli was lost and didn't know what she was doing. She danced and sang as everyone watched in amazement. "That's her!" the prince kept on screaming. "She is the one! I found her!" The other maidens were shocked. They couldn't believe what was going on. Uli, the palm kernel girl? They didn't know she could dance this well, and what surprised them the most was that the prince loved her, even with her rags. She jolted back to reality when the prince moved close to her and embraced her. The entire kingdom was in shock. Uli couldn't believe her eyes. She felt it was her imagination or that she was dreaming. Then, holding her hands, the prince addressed the crowd. "I have found the woman of my dreams today. I met her long ago dancing under the udara tree when I was mourning my mother. And watching her brought me so much joy and gave me the strength to live again. I was young, but I fell in love with this maiden. She disappeared suddenly, but I'm glad that I found her again. You all may be surprised, but I don't care about her background. I love her and I'm willing to spend my forever with her. I will marry her if she is willing to accept me as her husband." Tears filled Uli's eyes as she nodded, unable to speak. The crowd cheered, and the other maidens who had once mocked her now looked on in admiration. Uli had shown them that true beauty and talent come from within, and that a pure heart can achieve greatness. The maidens bowed their heads in shame. They remembered how badly they treated Uli and what had happened. They became scared of what she would do to them and ran out of the palace. The prince announced the date of his marriage to Uli. She was to remain in the palace while they took good care of her. The king was so happy. His son was always making him proud. Uli thought she was dreaming. She was given a very beautiful room in the palace and a maid to care for her. She took her bath, changed her clothes, braided her hair and looked stunning. The prince could not believe his eyes when he saw her. She looked extraordinarily beautiful. He was so kind and gentle with her that she couldn't help but love the prince. No one had shown her such form of kindness before. When she sat with the prince that night, the prince asked her why she suddenly disappeared, and then she shared her story with him, all that she had gone through. The prince was so sad that he comforted her, but he swore to punish her father's uncle for the pains they had caused her. They got married in a lavish ceremony. The people couldn't believe their eyes when Uli stepped out. She looked like the goddess of the land, beautiful and radiant. The prince could not take his eyes off her. They held each other and made a promise of everlasting love, as the entire village cheered them up. The maidens were still scared of what Uli would do to them. As the celebration was going on, they decided to go ask for her forgiveness. They had learned their lesson to treat everyone with kindness, as no one knows tomorrow. They held onto her knees and cried. Uli forgave them and advised them to learn how to show kindness to everyone, regardless of their status. The maidens thanked her and promised to turn a new leaf. The villagers celebrated long into the night, rejoicing in the union of Prince Ebube and Uli. It was a new beginning for Uli, who had faced so many hardships, and a reminder to everyone that kindness, determination, and a love for what you can do can change your life in the most unexpected ways. She remembered the words of her father, and tears filled her eyes. Uli lived happily with her husband, and when he became the king, they ruled over kingdom with great kindness and humility. They were blessed with beautiful children, and they lived happily ever after. Hey besties, thank you for watching this amazing story, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making this story. I would love you to drop your lessons in the comment section. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do not leave this video without hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Thank you for your support and your encouraging words. I love them so much and I enjoy reading your beautiful comments. Right now, I'll have to go and see you in the next story. Bye!